Yo, what's crack-a-lackin'? KC James here, kicking it with you, and welcome to KC's Corner. And you know how I do it. I give you the 411 and I keep it real, and if you don't know, you better ask somebody. Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. Congratulations to the New York Knicks as they win their first NBA championship in 53 years since 1973 over the weekend as they beat the Spurs in game 5 of the NBA Finals 94-90, and New York Knicks did it like nobody else maybe have done it in NBA history. They went on an incredible, unbelievable run to win the NBA championship. And now everybody is going absolutely insane in New York. It's a party and a riot at the same time because Nick fan is absolutely way over the top. They've taken the Big Apple and flipping it upside down. They're already burning buses and tearing up the city, and the parade is just 2 days away. They are trying to get ready, and it is just it's an absolute insane asylum. It is going to be a tsunami. It is an apocalypse all at the same time in New York City. The whole state of New York going crazy behind what the Knicks did, and how they did it was incredible, improbable, and they were led by the little big man, the guy that some people didn't even want when he came to the Knicks, Mighty Mouse, my main man, Jalen Brunson, who had one of the greatest closeout games in NBA Finals history, dropping 45 points on the Spurs to help take care of the business, take the life out of the Spurs. That dude is a warrior. That dude has tremendous heart. Jalen Brunson is a killer. I mean, he's 6'2", but he played like he was 8 feet 2 to help lead the Knicks to the NBA championship. So I will dive deep into that. Also, congratulations to the Carolina Hurricanes as they win their second Stanley Cup. They beat the Vegas Golden Knights 2-0 on a shutout. Brandon Bussi, their goalie, was hot in the last few games of that series. Jordan Stahl won the Conn Smythe Trophy at 37 years old. He last was in the Stanley Cup Finals and won it as a Pittsburgh Penguin when he was 20. So 17-year difference, and he's a champion. So congratulations to the Canes. They win their second Stanley Cup. We also have the World Cup in full effect. The USA had their match last week against Paraguay, and they were one of the best, maybe the best USA performance in World Cup history, the most goals they ever scored. They went 4-1, and now they'll be taking on Australia in their next match coming up on Friday. So we got all that and a whole lot of shaking going on. So I'm going to get right to the NBA Finals. Again, the New York Knicks. Yeah, those New York Knicks. Well, these are not your father's Knicks. They win the NBA championship. First one in 53 years. The third one in franchise history. They won in 1970 and 1973 against the Lakers. And of course, I'm a Laker fan, and I am the last guy who wants to give credit, but this is a whole different flavor, a whole different Knicks team, and we all have to realize and better recognize that it is the Knicks' time, and then they got it done, and they got it done in a way that nobody thought could happen except those New York Knicks. 1973, imagine what was going on in 1973. Gasoline was 39 cents a gallon. Yeah, that kind of gasoline. The median home price in 1973, the last time the Knicks won an NBA championship, was 35K. The number one song in America in 1973 was Tony Orlando and Dawn, Tie a Yellow Ribbon Around the Old Oak Tree. A pretty oaky song, if you ask me. The top movie in 1973 was The Sting with Robert Redford and Paul Newman. Also, The Exorcist was a movie that was big time in Serpico with my main man Al Pacino. That's what was going on back in 1973, the last time the Knicks won the NBA championship. Microsoft hadn't even become a company yet. They were probably still, they weren't, Bill Gates was like doing math back then. Before Microsoft was 5 years away. No internet, no any of this stuff that we know. It was like the Stone Age. The last time the Knicks won, when they had Walt Frazier and Earl Monroe and Willis Reed and Dave DeBusschere and all those dudes, again, beating my Lakers. So having to deal with that. But again, I and like everybody should, if you're not happy for the Knicks, you got to respect the Knicks. Now, Knicks fan is a whole different breed, a whole different flavor, because if the Knicks hadn't won this NBA championship, it wouldn't have been a party and a riot. It would have just been a riot. So now, getting ready for that parade, they're going to have to bring in the militia, bring in the National Guard, bring in Battalion 33, the Special Forces, and everybody to try and make sure the whole city of New York doesn't explode all at one time and fall into the ocean. That could happen because they are going to party like it's 1999 in New York. They're going to party for another 53 years. I don't think it'll be 53 years before they win another championship, but that's what's going on in New York right now. It is insane, crazy, and out of control. But this was a great series, even though it ended in 5 games, and I wanted more basketball. So I was rooting for the Spurs to win game 6. But in this series, the Knicks outscored the Spurs in 5 games by a total of 11 points. 11 points. The Knicks had 521 points. The Spurs had 510 points. The Spurs had a double-digit lead in every game in the series, including a 16-point lead in the closeout game 5, and they had a 13-point lead in the second half, a 8-point lead with 7 minutes to go, and the Knicks walked them down. They just kept walking them down. The Spurs led for 72% of the minutes in this series. The Knicks for 24% of the minutes. But the Knicks knew how to close it out, and the Spurs didn't. I thought that the Spurs were ready to win the NBA championship before this series started. When we got to this series, after you saw the Knicks run, I was one that started to question whether or not the Spurs could do this because of how the Knicks had performed in the playoffs, winning 13, going 16-3. Winning 13 straight playoff games, winning 9 straight on the road. They come back from 22 points down in the fourth quarter with less than 8 minutes left of game 1 against the Cavaliers, win that, and then rip the Cavs heart out and they sweep that series. They come back from a NBA record, finals record, 29 points in game 4 against the Spurs. And then OG Anunoby swoops down from the sky and gets the tip in, heard round the world. The Knicks win game 4. And you knew after that, it was only a formality. The Knicks, like champions, they could have gone back to game 6 at home, but Jalen Brunson was not having it. He took over and he took control of the entire series. That 6'2" Jalen Brunson, he played like he was 8'2". He put the entire state of New York on his shoulders, on his back, carried them to this NBA championship. 45 points in the closeout, 29 points in the second half, 15 in the fourth quarter, including 10 in a row. Made every big shot, every big play. This guy, Mr. Basketball in Illinois back in 2015, of course, his dad, Rick Brunson, assistant coach with the Knicks. And, first time you had a father and son on a team, both played for this team and also win a championship. And a great character, great heart, great huevos, courage, would not be denied. And Jalen Brunson is a killer. He's a 6'2" assassin. They said he was too small, wasn't quick, wasn't athletic. But what they forgot was his heart, and they forgot his will, and they forgot his skill and how good he is. A 2-time champion at Villanova. And he had his boys with him too. Josh Hart, who is a dog, who, made some great plays defensively, will go out there and get those rebounds, hit some big shots. Mikal Bridges, who the Knicks gave 5 first-round draft picks for. So they built this team differently. And when, again, the Knicks signed Jalen Brunson 4 years ago to a $125 million contract, everybody was like, what? They thought the Knicks were crazy. And it seemed like a crazy move. He'd still be a Dallas Maverick if the Mavs, at that time, Mark Cuban was running the show, if the Mavs would have just matched that deal. He would have stayed in Dallas. He was Luka's understudy. He a second round draft pick. Again, doubted his whole career, and all he did was go out there and do something that people thought that couldn't be done, except he did, except the Knicks. The Knicks have had 15 coaches since they in 1999, the last time they were in the NBA Finals, and including Larry Brown, including Mike D'Antoni, Derek Fisher, Kurt Rambis, Don Chaney, Mike Woodson. I could go the late Lenny Wilkins. I could go on and on. Of course, Jeff Van Gundy and all these guys. But Mike Brown was Tom Thibodeau, who got fired last year, and everybody was all upset about them firing Thibs because Thibs had gotten the Knicks right to the cusp. They made the Eastern Conference Finals. He had changed the culture. They were now playing defense. They were now a much better team, but Mike Brown took it to the next level. Mike Brown took them to where they had boldly not been able to go before. He took that same grind it out, lunch pail, go get it done, hard hat attitude, but he added some offensive style. He trusted Jalen Brunson to trust the system. It didn't work all the time. They were third in the East. They won 53 games. The Spurs won 62. Victor Wembanyama said in his press conference after that the Spurs were the better team. Well, no, you weren't. You turned the ball over at the wrong time. Bad shots, didn't know how to close out games. The better team won. The Spurs had their chances. Again, double-digit leads in every game. Of course, the one game that they won, but they didn't know how to close the games. They didn't know how to finish it off. They didn't know how to put the nail in the Knicks' coffin. They left the door open, and Jalen Brunson and the Knicks just walked through it. Jalen Brunson, of course, Finals MVP, had a total of 163 points in the series. And in that final game, the closeout game, when they needed him the most, he played his best. And that's what champions do. That's what killers do. That's what guys like that do. And he made his teammates better because of it. They got contributions from everybody off the bench. Landry Shamet knocking down threes like he was Steph Curry. They also got, performances out of, McBride and Mitchell Robinson, and all these dudes coming in, making their presence felt. Big Cat Carl Anthony Towns out there getting it done, even though he fouled out of game 5. And when he did that, Jalen Brunson said, "That's all right, big fella, I got this." And he did have it, and he showed why he had it, because got it done in a spectacular way. Again, the Spurs led for 72% of the minutes of the series. The Knicks only 24%, but the Knicks led for the right time at the right part of the games. They led at the end 4 of the 5 games, and that's what counted. And that's what champions do. They know how to close you out. They know how to put the knockout punch in when they get you on the ropes. That's what all the great teams do. Now, the Knicks are not a great team. Jalen Brunson is a star and a stud. Will Jalen Brunson end up being a kind of Hall of Famer guy? We don't know. Right now, he is definitely the king of New York. That's for sure. And the Knicks, all the players the Knicks had, and the Knicks who showed up on the road. I mean, this team won 13 straight playoff games. They won 9 straight on the road. They were 16-3 overall. I mean, an incredible playoff run. Teams like the 72 Lakers, the 83 76ers, the 67 76ers, any Celtic team you want to pick, any of Jordan's teams, 96 through 98, the early three-peat Jordan teams. You can look at the 85 Lakers, anybody you want to look at, they didn't make runs like this. They didn't come back from 22 points down with 7 minutes to go in a fourth quarter, or 29 points down, the NBA Finals record, to win a championship game. Everything they did, the Knicks played all 48 minutes of every game. They never gave up. They never doubted it. If the NBA played 45 minutes, the Spurs would be NBA champions right now, because they only played for 45 minutes. They forgot it's a 48-minute basketball game. A young team. They ran out of gas. They were fatigued at the end. That's how you saw with Victor Wembanyama. The young guy just didn't have it when it counted. He left his imprint on this series, but they couldn't, missing free throws at the crucial times of the game in game 4 and game 5. They did. The Knicks gave him an opportunity too. OG Anunoby missed free throws. Josh Hart missed free throws. But the Knicks still overcame all of that. And that's what Jalen Brunson has talked about, that they overcame whatever was in front of them, whatever challenge was in front of them, the Knicks were up to it. They climbed that mountain, and they climbed that mountain together. Again, you can't give enough credit to Mike Brown, who was unceremoniously fired by the Sacramento Kings, really, Sacramento. And he takes the Knicks job, and he wasn't even the first choice. He wasn't the second choice. He wasn't even the third choice. The job, they fell back on Mike Brown. And again, everybody was upset when they fired Tom Thibodeau. And Thibodeau, who was hard nosed, gets on the players. Mike Brown was a little different, sharing responsibility, taking input from players and his coaches and all that. You know, Mike Brown, who in his early coaching career coached Cleveland and LeBron to the NBA Finals, was a champion as an assistant with the Warriors. It turned around Sacramento. If you can turn around Sacramento, you know how to coach them up. And he took this team. It took him a while to figure it out, to buy into his system. They did by the time the playoffs run. And then the Knicks, you could call them butter because they were on a roll like nobody's business. And they had to finish it off with a championship. When you play the way they did, as well as they did, you have to finish this off with a championship. Again, game 5, the Spurs had a 16-point lead in the first half, a 13-point lead in the second half, a 8-point lead with 7 minutes to go, and the Knicks walked them down every single time. And they did because of the little big man, Jalen Brunson. 163 points in the final, a 45-point closeout game, one of the greatest of all time. His performance was Michael Jordan-esque. And I'm not the one to throw that kind of hyperbole around because it's not hyperbole. I saw it. That's what he did. He was as dominant as anybody has ever been. One of the only, I think 3 times I could remember that the best player on a championship team under 6'3", Isaiah Thomas, back with the Bad Boy Pistons in 1989 and 1990, they go back to back. Steph Curry leading the Warriors to 4 championships in 6 years. And now Mighty Mouse, the little big man, Jalen Brunson, getting it done. One of the best clutch performers in the league, one of the top. He's a top 5 player in this league because of how he performed. You can say it's some other guys, but Jalen Brunson was the man. I think Jalen Brunson has seen the movie The Wizard of Oz because he went and got him a heart. In fact, his teammate, Josh Hart, is one of them too. But everything came together with the Knicks. Leon Rose, the owner, got on the podium and said, sorry it took so long. I mean, Leon Rose was basically banished from his own arena. The fans basically despised Leon Rose. All the dark years this team went through. The coach, bringing in Amari Stoudemire, not enough. He had bad knees by then. Trading for Carmelo Anthony, he couldn't get it done. I mean, this Jalen Brunson and this team did what Patrick Ewing couldn't do, and Allen Houston and Derek Harper, and all these guys. They were Bernard King, my main man, grandmama, the late Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley. Think about it, going back old school. Michael Ray Richardson and Chris Dudley played for the Knicks, and Kiki Vandeweghe and Paul Westphal. All these guys that have played for the Knicks all over the years, and none of them could get it done. And the fans have gone through all this disappointment. 1994, losing Game 6 and Game 7 to the Rockets when John Starks, who was also always present in this run by the Knicks, went 2 for 18 in Game 7 against Hakeem Olajuwon and the Rockets. And then, of course, when the Knicks lost in 1999, ironically to the Spurs, ironically in 5 games, this time they flipped the script, but they were an 8th seed. They weren't even supposed to be there. And they get to the NBA Finals, and that was the Spurs' first championship. But the 2000, when Patrick Ewing missed the layup in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers. So the fans have gone through all of this disappointment, all of this hype with the Knicks, and most of these fans have never seen the Knicks win. They didn't even know it was possible. They said that we didn't think the Knicks were going to win in our lifetime. That's how big of a deal this is to New York. So you see why they're turning the city upside down and what they're doing, because they're letting out 53 years of frustration. And this Knicks team deserves everything they get. You don't have to like them. You don't have to like the fans, but you can't hate on this Knicks team. You can't hate on Jalen Brunson. You can't hate on Mike Brown. You can't hate on Josh Hart or Carl Anthony Towns, whose mom died during the pandemic. And, these guys, Mikal Bridges, who struggled in the early rounds of the playoffs and then found himself as the playoffs went on. OG Anunoby, who was on the championship team with the Toronto Raptors back in 2019, brought to this team. So Leon Rose, give him all the credit. He put together this team, put together the pieces. They made the right trades. Bring in Jalen Brunson as a free agent. Everybody thought it was a crazy move. You're overpaying this little guy. Now, that is the biggest bargain in NBA free agent history, signing Jalen Brunson, who now will be up for the Supermax. That dude is worth $1 billion to the Knicks right now, and he is the official king of New York. And the Knicks are the champions of the NBA, and they did it as a total team. Victor Wembanyama, in his press conference, too, said that the best team didn't win. The Spurs are a better team. No, they aren't. The Knicks are the best team in the NBA. I do not agree with that thought process that the better team didn't win. You win the way the Knicks did, coming back from 22 points in the fourth quarter, coming back from 29 points to win a game 4, winning 13 straight playoff games, 9 in a row, doing it the way they did. The Knicks won playoff games by 51, by 39, by 37. And my thoughts for why they were so good on the road is because it was like having home games on the road, because Knicks fans showed up big time. And not just Spike Lee, not just Tracy Morgan and Ben Stiller, and all the celebs, not just all those dudes. And of course, Patrick Ewing, John Stark, Allen Houston, Charles Oakley, Grandmama, Bernard King, all of the guys that were supporting the team, the old school Knicks. It was so great for them to be there too and see this happening and be part of what the Knicks have done. And I tell you, Spike Lee, who has been a Knicks fan since a season ticket holder since 1985, Spike Lee should get a ring. Spike Lee is just as responsible for the Knicks winning as anybody else. He has been right there supporting them. I saw that Spike Lee has spent over $10 million on his front row seats, his floor seats as a Knicks fan, supporting the team. The Knicks took over Rocket Arena in Cleveland. They took over Xfinity Mobile Arena in Philadelphia, and they didn't quite take over Frostbank Arena in San Antonio, but they tried. It was about 60-40. Spurs fans wasn't selling their tickets to Knicks fans like they do in Philadelphia, but Knicks fans showed up, and they showed up in full force, supported this team, and that's why they were so good on the road. You can go 9-1 on the road when you're in a hostile environment like that. Basically, the Knicks went 9-0 on the road because it was like home games on the road. They closed out every series on the road. They were true road warriors, and champions went on the road, and the Knicks were the epitome of this. The Knicks were epitome of team play. Again, they remind you of the 70 and 73 Knicks. Hard hat. They bring their lunch pails. They play team basketball. Those teams were coached back in the day by Red Holzman. Think about it. He's the only other coach of all these Knicks coaches to win a championship until Mike Brown. Can they do it again? I don't know. That's for another show and another story. But right now, it's the Knicks world, and we are all just living in it. And again, mad props, congratulations to the New York Knicks, the 2026 NBA champions. Also, again, congratulations to the Carolina Hurricanes. And we got all this soccer action going on as we are rolling right through the World Cup. Again, the USA has their match coming up against Australia. So we got all that coming up now in the NBA. Now the season's over, but the next season starts. Free agency. Great. Where will Giannis end up? The Milwaukee Bucks, and they want to make a deal and move Giannis before the draft, which comes up later on this month. And how about LeBron? Will he sign back with the Lakers? Will he end up in Cleveland? Will LeBron retire? What will he do? Well, I don't think he'll be in New York with the Knicks because they do not need LeBron. Will he go to Golden State and team up with Steph Curry like we've heard rumors about? So all this stuff is flying around about the NBA. So the off season, we got the summer league coming up too. But the off season for the NBA is like a new season. So we have all that coming up too. So the NBA never sleeps. The season just ends. And now there's a whole lot of stuff too that we have to see what's going to be for next season in the NBA. So it is on and popping, and I will be here to break it all down for you like I always do. Because you know how I do it. I give you the 411 and I keep it real. And if you don't know, you better ask somebody. I'll see you right here next time on KC's Corner.